I organized a fake wedding and now my ex-wife is threatening to expose me. I organized a fake wedding and married my wife. And now my actual wife is threatening to expose me. 7 years ago, I met my now wife while completing my master's degree. She was a foreign student and we were in the same flat for student accommodation and we hit it off immediately. It wasn't long before we started dating. And then fast forward a year or two and she decided to stay in the country and we moved in together. I love this woman and things were going great, but she eventually started to bring up the topic of marriage. I mean, is that not the purpose of like getting to know someone? Unpopular opinion, right? Not everyone wants to be with someone for the purpose of marriage, but that's kind of like the end goal. Otherwise, you should have that discussion in the beginning. But I could understand why she had that assumption like, oh, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to live with you. Like, adult, we're going to get married. Her family is very traditional and she insisted that if we were going to continue being together, then we have to get married. I was strongly against this, but I seriously cannot say no to this woman and I eventually agreed. Not only did you want to get married the first time, but you got married twice. So I don't know what direction this is going in. Now, here's the kicker. I'm technically still married to my ex-wife. We did not end things on good terms, so I left without getting a divorce, changed my number and contact info. I did not want to have any contact with my ex-wife. And since my wife is foreign, she doesn't know the proper legal processes required to get married here. I told her that I would deal with the legal aspect while she organized the wedding. She did have some question as to why she never had to sign anything or provide any form of ID, but I lied and said that it wasn't needed for where we live. So you're a piece of shit. That's what we're kind of getting into, that you are. We had a large wedding and it would have been absolutely magical if it weren't for the fact that the whole time I was sweating bullets, wondering if anyone would find out it was all a ruse. The only people who had any idea it wasn't a proper wedding were the staff, where I said that we were already legally married and were having a reception now that we had the money. We've been married for almost 3 years now and she still has absolutely no idea, and it seemed like I had gotten away with the impossible. That was until last week when my actual wife reached out to me. Apparently, she found out through a mutual friend that I had remarried and got my contact info from them. She called me all sorts of names and said that she would make sure that my wife finds out about my lies. I begged her not to and offered to get an actual divorce, but she told me that it was too late for that. I've been stressed out of my mind these past few days and honestly don't know what to do. Telling my wife is absolutely off the table, as I know for a fact that she would leave me without hesitation. So yeah, that's my situation. He does have an update, but before I even get into that, like, this whole story pisses me off. You started your marriage off on a lie. Stuff like that pisses me off because you took their naiveness in a sense because they don't know better and use it against them. That was like that's abuse. It's a sense of abuse. If the roles were reversed, you would have had such a hissy fit. You would have divorced her in an instant. Why didn't you divorce your first wife? Makes absolutely no sense. You could have had an amicable, clean. It seems like you had her under your thumb, so you could have made her sign anything to make it a clean cut. So you liked. Ew, I don't like this. My 25 female husband, 27 male, is angry because I'm pregnant with twins and he only wanted one kid. This is why biology is like a mandatory class growing up in school, because it teaches you these things that we don't have control over this. Unless you do IVF. If you conceive naturally, you do not know if you have 1, 2, or 3 kids. It's hereditary. 2, you don't get to pick how many eggs drop or if an egg splits. So for some background, my husband, 27 male, and I, 25 female, have been together for 5 years, married for 2. My husband grew up in a very strict and traditional family. His parents were very religious, and they had 8 children. My husband is the second-born child, but he has an older brother who is severely disabled. So growing up, his parents forced him to basically raise and watch over all of his siblings. Growing up, my husband had no childhood. From the moment he was able to do things independently, his parents forced him to grow up too fast. Directly after school, he was forced to feed, bathe, change, and take care of his older brother. And on top of that, he was expected to take care of all 6 of his younger siblings. His parents were very neglectful. His mom was only attentive to her children when they were babies, but once they started walking and becoming their own person, she kind of stopped being a mother. It's also important to note that his parents had a very unhappy relationship, but they refused to get divorced. So my husband grew up in a very toxic household. Not only did they refuse to get divorced, they continued having kids. Explain to me how a dying marriage survives on having more kids. Because I don't understand. Why would you do that? If I know I hated this man's guts, why would you want more kids? And you don't even want to raise them. What was the point of 8? Before my husband and I started dating, we talked a lot about our ideal futures. I told him that I wanted kids, maybe after being married for a couple of years. He told me that he wasn't sure if he wanted kids or not because he was afraid to end up treating them like his father treated him. And as much as he loved to have his own kids, it would destroy him if he became another version of his father. I was already in therapy at the time, so I suggested he look into therapy as well. Shortly after we started dating, he began seeing a therapist. He has really come a long way, especially learning to love himself, and I'm proud of him. After almost 2 years in therapy, he told me that he changed his mind about kids. He explained that therapy helped him realize that he was just afraid of becoming his father, and he's actively learning to unlearn toxic behaviors that he grew up in. He also explained that he was open to the idea of kids in the future and wanted to be the father he never had. Well, we've been married for 2 years, and both have stable jobs. So earlier this year, I brought up kids and how I wanted to start trying for a baby. He admitted that he was a little scared, but he was ready to be a dad. We had multiple long conversations about the type of parents that we wanted to be, our parenting style, and what we deemed as unacceptable behaviors for parents. And my husband mentioned that he only wants to have one kid. He was pretty clear about how he didn't want his kids to repeat his childhood, where the older child has to take care of the younger one. You can prevent that from happening if you become a parent. You just have to parent and let kids be kids. You're acting like that's on the children. That's on you as the parent to make sure the kids don't get care of the other kids. Your philosophy is flawed. But it is a trauma response, so I'll give you that. I understand why you feel that way. We found out that I was pregnant about 3 weeks ago while we were visiting my family in Brazil. We got back home last week and I had my first ultrasound yesterday. I'm almost 9 weeks pregnant. The ultrasound confirmed that I'm carrying twins. My husband couldn't come to the appointment with me because he had to work, but I surprised him as soon as he got home. I was expecting him to be happy and even nervous or scared, but he was really mad. He started freaking out and kept asking me if I was joking. Then he just straight up asked me to terminate my pregnancy. What the fudge? I just stared at him because I was shocked. I told him that I wasn't going to abort the babies that we planned. Then he got really mad and said that he only wanted one baby. He told me to either abort both or at least abort one of our twins and keep the other. I'm speechless. That's honestly ridiculous. I don't even know if that's possible, but I refused. We got into a really intense argument. He has never yelled at me until yesterday. He just kept yelling about how he only agreed to one baby and how I'm being selfish. Dear brother, did you not think of every situation when you decided to have a baby? There was a slim possibility, but still a possibility that you would have twins. Forget about how you feel. I mean, do you know how hard it feels carrying one baby, let alone two? That's going to destroy her internally. I would be more scared about her well-being, not about the hypothetical children you don't even have yet that you don't know how you're going to react to when they're older. Like, chill. He left the house last night. I've tried to call him, but he won't answer his phone. I don't know where he is. Twins don't run in my family, and they don't run in his family either. It just happened, and I have no way of controlling that. I don't understand why he's behaving like this. He was so happy about becoming a dad, and now he's asking me to get rid of our babies. I'm really lost. I haven't gotten much sleep, and I had to call out of work today.
Am I the asshole for messaging my DoorDash driver about this? I, female 26, ordered some food from DoorDash this evening. When the food arrived, I grabbed the bag off of the front porch and noticed that the safety seal was ripped. I struggle with food contamination OCD and have come a long way in therapy to be able to order off apps like this. My initial reaction was to throw the food away, but it was expensive to have it delivered, and it was for my son and I. So I decided to message the driver and ask if there was a reason it was ripped open. I was thinking maybe the workers forgot to add something and they did that last minute to add sauce or something. But the dasher snapped back at me, telling me that's just how he grabbed the bag and to just eat the food. When I explained why I first messaged him, he went off on me again. He even tried to say that's not how he dropped it off, but noticed the seal was ripped on the side of the bag that it was folded on, not the side pictured in the drop-off picture. I don't know. Now I just feel like a Karen and stupid for even messaging about it. What do you guys think? Do you just ignore the broken seal if you get one? Or maybe have insight for why seals might be broken when you get it? So Dasher sends OP a message. It's a sticker, ma'am. Chick-fil-A is not perfect. Those are teenagers over there trying to keep up with the demand of all these orders that are coming through drive-thru, front counter, Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash. These children are doing the best they can, so every sticker is not going to be perfect. Some stickers are ripped on bags, it happens. But at the end of the day, no one has been inside of your bag on my end. But I've already reached out to DoorDash and let them know the situation because I know I did not deliver that in bad condition. And that bag does not look the way that it is between you and the DoorDash, whether or not you get a refund or they prevent you from using their app, because that is not the way the bag looked when I dropped it off.
Nope.
No, everyone works hard for their money, and so to like not get what you're ordering and paying for, like,
No.
Am I in the wrong for telling my mom never to touch my stuff again after she lost my Louis Vuitton bag? Okay, so I, female 15, have always wanted a Louis Vuitton purse. I've always wanted something expensive as my own, as all my things are hand-me-downs from my older sisters, as we're not the richest of people. Eventually, I decided that if I wanted my purse, I'd get it myself. So I got a job at a local restaurant and started to save up my money. While I worked, I looked at purses and decided that I liked the little bag. It was expensive, but after a few months, I had the money. I quickly went and bought my bag. I didn't even let my family touch it when I got home. I didn't even wear it for the first week as I was too scared to damage it in any way. One day after school, I came back home and went into my room to look at my bag, but when I got in, it was gone from its place on my desk. I looked around my room to see if I had moved it and just forgot about it, but I couldn't find it. I went out and asked my sisters, but they said that they hadn't touched it, so I went and found my mom. I asked her if she'd seen my bag, and she said that she'd shown it to her friend and her friend had liked it and asked if she could borrow it. My mom had said yes. I hadn't even used it yet, so to say the least, I wasn't pleased by this news. I blew up at my mom telling her not to touch my stuff, and she said that her friend would be okay with it and I was being dramatic. I got grounded and was told to stay in my room since I was acting like a child over the bag. The next day, I asked my mom about the bag and she got an uncomfortable look on her face. Instantly, I knew that something was wrong. She wouldn't say anything, but after a while, she finally admitted that her friend had lost the bag and that she didn't plan on replacing it. I was furious. I exploded at her, saying that she and her friends shouldn't have touched it in the first place and to never touch my things again. I also said some other hurtful things that I don't care to repeat.